And here we go. First show of the new year. Here's the thing. If you thought that setting New Year's resolutions was actually going to help you get ahead, I've got some scientific evidence that says the reverse. Okay, so if um I mean, I think we've all been there. We've all done the whole New Year's resolution thing. For years, I did it. And I started looking at this from a different angle. And before we get into that angle, I wanted to share some key points that some scientific journals and some research I've been doing over the last couple of weeks have pointed out. Because leading up to this show, I wanted to make sure this just wasn't this is how Dan feels about it. And I wanted to actually give you some scientific evidence from some published articles and stuff. So, Psychology Today says we put huge pressure on ourselves with New Year's resolutions, and this pressure makes failure more likely. Wanting to change under such enormous pressure is a bit like wanting to fall asleep. The stronger you want it, the less likely it is that you will succeed. Now, think about that for a second, right? I'm sure we've all lied there in bed and said, oh, I got this big proposal tomorrow, or I got a trip tomorrow, and you're like, I got to get to sleep. I got to get to sleep. I got to get to sleep. And your eyes are wide like saucers, right? I think we've all been there before. So that I could really relate with. The BBC reported, rationally speaking, the 1st January should be no better than any other day to make a life change. So why put the needless pressure on ourselves to upgrade our lives at the opening of a new calendar? See, this I agree with, and I'm going to share a story with you in a minute. I just want to get through a couple of the things here. Very well minded reported that, but as a week rolls by, with veggies in our fridges, and then this is based on a person saying I'm going to eat healthier, right? But as the weeks roll by with the veggies in our fridge and the treadmill accumulates fewer and fewer miles, a week later we replace those rotten apples with ice cream and post that fancy spin bike on Craigslist. Maybe next year. And they go on to say, well, why do we do this to ourselves? We amp ourselves up to start the year with hopes and good intentions. But after a couple of months, we're back to our old habits and behaviors, sitting on the couch, eating potato chips, feeling defeated. Now, a couple of key words in here is old habits and behaviors. And we're going to talk about this in a minute. Jenny Conning, a therapist with the virtual primary care and mental health platform Plush Care, says the pressure to make a change based on a cultural timeline like that of New Year's Day can set most of us up for failure because we only see it in black and white. She explains this heightening pressure can lead to increased anxiety or depression. If it's important if you are feeling symptoms of anxiety and depression to be kind to yourself, and in some cases to consider speaking to a mental health expert. So with these statements, right? I here's kind of how I see it. We were at my brother and sister-in-law's on New Year's Eve, and they had all of these famous people coming up. And it was, what's your New Year's resolution? And I'm listening to them, and one of them is like, oh, I'm going to be more present with my family. And another one is, oh, I'm going to visit my parents more. And another one is, oh, I'm going to communicate with my family more. And another one was, oh, I'm going to travel more. And another one was, oh, I'm going to work harder. And here's my question to all of you. I see New Year's resolutions as a goal, an opportunity presented on New Year's Day. But my question is, did any of these people, do you think, did they realize that they didn't have that relationship, that they needed to call their parents more, that they needed to be more present? Did this just come about at 10 o'clock on New Year's Eve? Like, and my question has always been, and I'm sure if you're a fan of the show and if you've watched this show at any time, you've heard me say, what are you doing about it? Right? Why start on Monday? Start today. And this is my question. If your sales are down and you're saying, oh, in the new year, I'm going to crush it, and say this was the beginning of December, why would you not start crushing it at the beginning of December? Why is there this wait period for some, calendar day that everybody puts so much emphasis on. And don't get me wrong here. I'm not trying to be critical. I'm not trying to, destroy if you've done New Year's resolutions. I'm not trying to be down. I'm trying to be real. And with the reality of it is, like, think of this, think of these opportunities, right? How many people statistically get new gym memberships at the beginning of the year, right? Set these big goals, which are usually just tasks, not goals, for starters, that people set. Even worse, most people never even look at the desire, the systems, the routines, and all of these to achieve their New Year's resolutions. So they set these tasks out. I'm going to go to the gym more. Going to the gym more is a task, right? A goal is like getting in the best shape of my life. But with that goal comes all these routines, all these processes, the strategy, the education, and everything else that comes with it. Instead of just saying, I'm going to the gym. And then so many people walk into the gym and they're just like, what am I going to do now? And what am I, like, and they don't have any direction. They have no routine, right? So a better way to think about it, in my opinion, is this, right? Build out a better way to achieve the results you want. And don't wait for a calendar year to do it. Just build out those processes, build out that framework, build out something that you can follow that does not twist your daily routine too much, because the more it twists, the smaller bump you need in order to stop. Okay. Second, don't set them on New Year's. Like, why not set them daily, weekly, monthly? Why wait till New Year's to set all these big, hairy, audacious goals when you can start setting them every month, right? And don't focus on a maximum of 3 big goals at a time. Those are kind of like my 3 better ways to think about resolutions, where, if we put 4, 5, 6, 7 huge goals on our plate, right? Because you got to remember, the philosophy and the strategy of goal development is typically one goal. What are your 5 big moves to get there? What are the 5 things that you're going to do every week to get to that goal? Right. So you start putting 5, 6, 7, you're having, like, 15, 20, 30, 35, 40 things, big moves that you got to do, all that have tasks inside of them. But with 3, you have 15 with tasks inside of them. So try not to go above 3. The fact, when you do, you're actually setting yourself up for failure. And trust me, this is coming from somebody with huge goal ambitions. I set goals constantly, where if I think the bar is here, I'll set it here for that specific reason. But I know that. So even if I miss my goal, I know I'm above my bar. And for me, that mental piece of it, that, like, mentality side of it, works great. For you, it might not. For you, it might not work at all. You might need to see those results. You might need to check things off, right? Like, here's the thing. For everything you do, get into a mindset of growth over goals. And what I mean by that is, what are you going to be at the end of this? How are you going to feel? How are you going to be engaged? How are you going to bring joy? How are you going to demonstrate to everyone around you the new you, the new goal achievement, the new ability to get things done, the new rung in your life? And that is way more important than anything else. That growth piece, you can set and achieve goals all day long, and if there's no growth in it, you'll burn out. If there's no growth in it, you'll lose motivation. If there's no growth in it, you'll pretty much give up before it's time. So it's the process in which we set them. And we're using the stage of New Year's as that pinnacle pivot point, but it's not. Right? Like, think of it. The person that needed to, the celebrity that said, well, I want to be more present. Well, why wouldn't you just become more present every day and work on that as a thing that I want to grow? I want that growth in my life every day. Sales. If your sales are lacking and you realize 3/4 of the way through Q4 that, I'm never going to hit my goals. Well, why not start right there, instead of saying, oh, you know what? I'm going to take the month of December and just, like, plan out my new year. You've just missed a whole month of productivity. Like, and again, this is if that big goal, that big dream is to scale your business, right? Like, if that's what it is, to scale your business, then there's no better time than now, You know, don't wait, do it now. So here's kind of way I wanted to approach this today. I can remember when I first started really getting into these goals and projections, right? And I'm sure some of you, I've told the story many times, but I'll give you a quick summary of it. Back in my early days in logistics, my busiest time was October, November, December. And it's when wrapping paper really started rolling out. We started rolling it to DCs just before Halloween. And then, right after Halloween, it's all Christmas, especially in Canada, because we've already had our Thanksgiving, right? And so I was so busy that literally September, October, November, I never sold. For years at the beginning of my career, I never sold. So I went into every January with pretty much an empty funnel, like bone dry funnel. And in doing so, I set up these big goals for myself because I was like, wow, you know what? And I never made that disconnect between the elevation of my, call it my holiday business, and my regular business, my all year round business. So I would go into January and I'd say, okay, I'm going to do an extra 120K GP this year, which means I'm going to do 10 grand a month. Okay. So January would come out, wouldn't hit it. February would come out, wouldn't hit it. Even March would come out, I wouldn't hit it. So before I know, I'm in April. I'm 3 months behind on my goal. This almost insurmountable amount of like 30K getting into mid-March, 35, like 40K, 35K. I was like, how am I going to do this? Because now I start looking and saying, well, I got like 10 months left. I got 9 months left. That means I need to almost do, 15,000 a month. I've got very few people in my pipeline because I've lost 4 months, 4 months of some of the busiest times to build your pipeline out for the new year. And all that would happen is before I knew it, I would be so far behind, and I felt defeated. And I felt defeated before Q2 even happened. Now, how many of you have felt like that? And then Q2 comes. And what happens with Q2? Well, that brings summer. And summer is a time to relax. Summer is a time to enjoy. Summer is a time when you're working and you look outside and you go, oh my gosh, it's so sunny out. I wish I was out suntanning or by a pool, right? So your mindset shifts in that summertime. Then you have all these, well, the traffic managers are on vacation. Now I start rationalizing lies to myself. I start rationalizing with what I'm doing. Then all of a sudden, before I know it, I'm in this crunch in Q3 and 4 to make up for what I didn't in Q1 and 2. Only because I didn't have a process. I missed critical steps to achieve my long-term growth, right? But when I taught them to myself, when I went out and got the strategy and understood what I needed, everything changed because I wasn't allowing myself to get behind at the beginning. And I wasn't giving in to the New Year's resolutions that started happening. So what I want to do is I want to share with you a 3-part framework that I created years ago that has really helped me, especially at this time of year, to really sit down and say to myself, what am I looking for? What are the processes? What are my desires? And what are the goals and tasks? And that's pretty much what it is. I suggest you don't start with the goal. You start with the routine. Like, what can I fit into my day? And that routine goes right into the desire. Okay. Now, this is where we make an emotional attachment to what we're looking at. And then we start focusing on the goal. Because a lot of you that set New Year's resolutions, if you go back and ask yourself what your resolutions were this year, I can almost guarantee that most of them are actually tasks. Like, I'm going to sell more. That's a task. That's not a goal. What is the derivative of selling more? That might be the goal. What is the emotional attachment of selling more? That's the goal. Making phone calls, sending emails, those are tasks. See, and most of us set goals as tasks and we don't even realize it. And it's crazy because I've been doing a lot of studying on this lately. I'll share a story with y'all. So at this time last year, I was just being released from the hospital on the first time that I literally thought I was going to die fighting cancer. Um, the emotional state, the destruction internally, mentally, my mental health, everything was just messed up beyond all belief, right? Um, I got out and I said, you know what? That's it. I'm going to get healthier. And what I did was I said, before I start this, I need to do some research, right? Because I want to get the most up to date information to help me make the best decisions I can. Now, come the end of January, I was back in the hospital 4 times with pneumonia. And I was almost, that's the second time I almost died in literally 35 days. And it was the 2 times in my life that I will never, ever, ever forget. The feeling, the emotional, the lack of ability to breathe, the watching the look on my wife's face, like all of these things haunt me. So when I sat down and I started to really look at goals, that idea of how do I get better? How do I increase my own motivation? How do I increase my own desires? How do I increase everything I want, but yet my body is not physically able to be the vehicle to take me there? So how do I do it? And you can imagine, this is a point where you're stuck, but this isn't a mental stuck like most of us have. This is a physicality where I'm just physically unable to do it, but my brain is like, go, go, go. And my body's like, you're gonna lie down for the next 4 hours. You know what I'm saying? So these were all things that were running through this head of mine. And this is where I really started to look at it and said, well, if I want to get better, what is that emotional attachment it has? And what are the routines, the processes, the frameworks that I want to build out to make this happen? See, and this is where some of you might think that you need to make these New Year's resolutions because you know what? Oh, well, no, if I don't start my year really diving deep into what I want, then I've kind of not started it on a good note. And don't get me wrong, um, you know, there's this continuous, I think, from when we were kids, even where New Year's brings this new year, right? This new ability to get things done, this new ability for goal achievement. But what if you were to start that in Q1 and end it in Q1 next year? Would it make a difference from a calendar perspective? No, it's still 12 months, right? The only thing that changes is you're missing out on the extra day in February this year that you didn't have last year or you won't have next year. So there's really no difference. And I think this is the key point I'm trying to bring across is just because everyone else is doing it, just follow your lane. Do what you do best and forget about everyone else. Because the thing is when you don't apply these 3 key principles to your goal setting, to these New Year's resolutions, majority of the time you will fail. So if you want this, I'm making this resource available this afternoon in my resource hub. So depending on when you're watching this, if you're watching it live or on a replay, it will be in my resource hub. If you go to the link in the description below, you'll find this resource where I just pretty much lay out the key framework, the triangle framework, and I give you opportunity to fill in your information. Because if you don't have the routines, if you don't have all the processes, and if you don't connect that routine with an emotional desire, right? That emotional attachment to why we're doing this, things will fail. And I'll go back to the gym example because I think the gym example is one of the greatest examples that anyone can ever use when it comes to New Year's resolutions, right? Everybody comes out at the beginning of the year that they just ate all of this food over Christmas. They might be feeling lethargic. They might be feeling like, oh my God, I gotta lose this weight. I just gained like 15 pounds over Christmas. Okay. So first and foremost, here's where I'm gonna get real with y'all. You made the choice to eat that food. It's not the food's fault, it's your fault. You made the conscious choice to say, during the holidays, I'm going to eat whatever I want, or maybe it was an unconscious choice, but you made the choice to put every single piece of food in your mouth that you put in your mouth. You made the choice to eat the bonbons, eat the, Christmas bark and all that wonderful stuff. And don't get me wrong, I love all that stuff. but you made the choice to do it. And so the New Year's resolution is not the answer, right? They've often said it's not diets that get you in better health. It's a shift in lifestyle. And this is what I'd really like to drill home is when you shift the lifestyle, there's so many pieces of that puzzle that we miss all the time. So set up the process, the framework, the how you're going to get this done. Then go into the desire to get it done. What is that emotional attachment? Write out a complete description of what it's going to feel like, how you're going to feel, how you're going to hold yourself, how you're going to walk, how you're going to display yourself, how you're going to speak when you achieve this goal. Then go down into the goal and lay out the tasks that you need to achieve in order to get the goal. And you'll very, very quickly see that a lot of goals that you're setting are actually tasks. They're not goals. They're a piece of the puzzle inside the bigger umbrella of what you want done. And that's probably the key piece here is setting that framework up so you have the ability to achieve these goals, these dreams, these desires, but you set it up with a routine first. And then you look and say, okay, if I can build this routine and even switch it to desire first if you want, because that desire might even help you build out that routine first. But you got to have these three elements, right? You got to have them all. If you don't have them all, you're realistically at a 95 to 97% chance that you will fail at some point in time during the year. You will falter, you will fall. All right. So make sure we have those three elements. Again, if you want more, go to my resource hub. The one pager will be in there by this afternoon, but check it out and really go and start diving deep into that, because that is a crucial part of your overall growth, of your overall longevity, of your overall motivation, desire, everything in this industry, right? We've just come off a pretty horrible year for most people. So in building that, most people are going to have these big goals coming out this year, right? Because, hey man, last year sucked. I want to crush it this year. The challenge is, are you setting yourself up for failure ahead that you might not even know is there? And it might be just totally unconsciously that you've set this up. So use this vehicle framework that I'm going to provide you. Use it, write it down, right? Like, what is the process? What is the routine? The how I'm going to get this done, right? And the how includes many things. If we go back to the gym model, the how includes, when am I going to the gym? What kind of program? Am I going to get a personal trainer? And how am I going to change my dietary? How am I going to eat? How am I going to eat so I retain that vitality, that energy, that abundance, right? Like when I was in BC in November, hanging out with Damon for a while, one thing that became very clear to me, and I understand nutrition, but one thing that became very clear to me is how clean he ate. And I looked at that and I started studying that for a couple of weeks. And I went, okay, I got to understand this clean eating thing, because in the 4 days that I was there, I obviously, when I landed in BC, I adopted Damon's eating routines, right? Because I'm on his time zone. We're kind of hanging out together 24/7. I was staying at his place. So it's like I adopted his morning eating routine and all that. And I'll tell you, within literally 24 to 36 hours, I felt healthier. I felt more energized. I felt like I had the ability to do more stuff. Like I could go longer. And I'm a workhorse. I'm like David Goggins when it comes to work. Like I'm just go and do it. But I just felt more energy doing it. I realized, wow, this clean eating, especially now at this point in my recovery, is something I really, really need. And so for me, going to visit my buddy Damon was a huge eye-opening learning experience for me. And I went like, wow, yeah, okay, there's something here to this. So what did I do? I didn't just say, okay, I'm going to start clean eating. I set up a process. I set up the how. I did my research. I started to look at things like turmeric, things like cilantro, things like all these cleansing agents, things like good fruits to put in my shakes and different proteins and different sugars. And I started to research all this stuff. I took like 4 hours and I just researched out every piece of it. So each piece was like 4 hours, but I did the work. Then I said, What is my desire? Why do I want to eat better? And I started listing out all the benefits to how I wanted to feel, how I wanted to react, how I wanted to make things happen for my future. And then I sat down and said, okay, what's my goals? Now that I understand these two major components, I kind of got the four pillars, I got the foundation down. My goals are the levels of the building I'm going to build. And what's the first level? What's the second level? What's the third level? What's the fourth level? And for me, just full transparency, I mean, the first level was cutting out actual milk and going to like an almond milk with a higher calcium and less additives and this kind of stuff. And so I started to really look at these pieces of the puzzle to give myself all the ammunition I needed to win my personal war. See, this is the key. I did my research. I took an extra 2 days, and this isn't research that takes weeks and months on it. It takes hours or days. And when you've done that research, then you have every piece of the puzzle to go and make a major move in your life. I hope this session served you well. I hope I debunked the theory of New Year's resolutions well enough for you. Again, if just go into the resource hub, you'll see the 3-part framework. Grab it. It's free. You just got to register. It's free. You can download it. Plus, you can download multiple other resources there. Check out all the links in the description below, and make sure if you haven't signed up to register and get notified when we go live and when we put out new videos. Until next time, my friends, remember, go out there, make every call educational, and crush your sales. Take care and welcome to 2024.